I simply think we should all play social media like it plays us. Fight fire with fire, you know? Hi, I'm Gauze Payton, a professional cosplay pattern maker and marketer. One of the most common questions I get asked all the time is, Payton, how the hell do I figure out social media? Well, not to fret, for I not only have a fancy piece of paper that says I know what I'm doing, but also this. I'll keep this intro short since I have a lot of yapping to do, but I figured if you guys like this might be the start of a series? I don't know. Either way, if you have any specific questions or things you want to learn that aren't in this video, comment below and let me know. As well, there are timestamps for each chapter of the video below if you want to skip around. Without further ado, let's get into it. So why does social media matter? It kind of doesn't. Well, it does, but it depends on the person. If you're doing this for a hobby, it doesn't matter. If you're doing it for fun, it doesn't matter. But if you're running a business or trying to run a business, it matters. For example, I run a cosplay business selling sewing patterns, and if not for consistent social media posting, nobody would know what I make. I need to drive traffic to my shop. Social media is exactly that, social. It's a great way to connect to people, your audience, future collaborators, brands, etc. It's a showcase of you, your personality, and the art you create. Side note, I hate when people call their cosplays content or say they're a content creator. Like, you're making art. You're an artist. I will, however, probably end up calling it content creation throughout this video for the sake of explanation purposes. My bad, but it's a word, it's a phrase, it works, okay? It works. So, what platform should you focus on? When it comes to social media platforms, sometimes you'll get advice to post all the time on every single platform. Do not do this. You will burn out. You cannot give them all your full attention, and sometimes they don't align with the audience you want to curate. Sure, I could multi-stream my Twitch streams to somewhere like Kick, but my audience isn't there, and it would be a waste of my time. I choose instead to focus on Twitch and YouTube, as that's where my target audience is. However, if you have a unique username and a new social media pops up that you think could be big down the line, don't hesitate to claim your username while you can. Someone was cosplaying on YouTube before I was and tried to impersonate me with random shitpost videos, and let me tell you, it was really weird. Personally, I'm active on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, and Twitch, with the occasional posts on Twitter, not calling it X, Blue Sky, and Threads. I find my personal bread and butter is in video and photo content creation, so I make sure my attention is on platforms like Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube that prioritize those types of posts. I'm not good at writing witty or informative short text posts under 180 characters. I'm way too much of a yapper if you can't tell. As well, that's where my target audience is. Cosplayers tend to congregate in certain online spaces, and I want to be where they are. But how do you keep up with posting? Personally, I usually post 3 times a week on 3 different platforms, but I can only do this because I plan, film, edit, and schedule my posts in advance. This is also part of my job, so don't be stressed if you can't manage that many hours of work per month or week. This is only what works for me. You do not have to follow this guide. Maybe you want to post more, maybe less. I see people with massive success who post maybe like once a week or even once a month on each platform. It all depends on what works for you and your schedule. Just be consistent. I sit down and film all my social media videos for either a month or a 2-week span in one sitting, so I don't have to consistently worry about if I have things ready day to day, and can instead focus on other aspects of cosplay and my job. Sometimes, if I don't want to let people catch on to my methods, I'll even change outfits or the background lighting colors when I film. I typically film about 10 videos at a time, which lasts me about 3 weeks, and I edit them over the next day or 2. For scripts, I write mine in advance in the Notes app on my phone, and whenever I get inspiration, I'll quickly draft a note and scribble down my thoughts before they go away. I'll be at like the grocery store, and I'll like look at like a box of rice, and I'll all of a sudden think, oh my god, I should make a video about this, and I write it down in my phone. Sometimes that just means like nonsensical titles and bullet points, but I can always clean it up later, but I can't always remember that idea later, you know? I use CapCut to edit my videos simply because I got a really good deal on CapCut Pro, and I like how their program's specifically built for social media video editing. But any program will work. CapCut, DaVinci Resolve, Premiere Pro, iMovie, Final Cut Pro, Vegas Pro. Those are a few just off the top of my head, but you are not at all limited to them. For photos, that is a completely different story, which I'll get into a bit when I talk about social media planners and dive a bit more into the making good content chapter later. So here's a peek at my social media planner for a previous month. You can see I post regularly on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I use Later, which when I started using it has a free plan, but I'm not sure if it does anymore. But truly there are dozens of social media planners out there. Hootsuite, Canva, Buffer, Planoly, those are just a few off the top of my head that I've heard from coworkers and friends. There's even built-in planners in many social media platforms these days, such as the Meta Business Suite or the YouTube scheduling feature. I like Later because it can either auto-post my scheduled posts or give me a notification on my phone so I can post them myself, which is great if I want to add specific audios, tag people, etc., etc. I can also see my posts all laid out on a calendar. As a visual person, I really appreciate that it's laid out like this, otherwise just looking at all the dates, I'm gonna get really confused. You'll also notice I post on different days, on different times, on each platform. I try and stagger what I post on different platforms so that people who follow me on multiple platforms don't see the same video 3 times in a row on the same day. For example, a video I post on Instagram on Monday might not end up on YouTube until Friday and TikTok the next week. As well, time to post is different for each platform, and I base that on when my followers are most active. Almost every platform lets you look at your analytics that show you when your followers are online. Later also has an automatic feature that calculates this and populates it in your content calendar, which I think is pretty cool. For example, as of January 2026, my best time to post on Instagram is 10 a.m., YouTube is 3 p.m., and TikTok is 8 p.m. What content do you make and how do you make it good? There are a lot of things that make good content, but I like to think that the biggest one is value. Social media is filled with never-ending content, art, and just absolute slop, so how do you stand out? Make stuff with value in mind. Make stuff that someone won't want to scroll by since it provides them with something. Maybe that's information like a tutorial, an infographic, or tips. Maybe it's a funny story, or a sad story they feel for, or a jaw-dropping cosplay photo that they can't look away from. Whatever it is, tailoring it to have value is what really matters in the eyes of like a social media algorithm. When it comes to photos, I often like to get a little wordy and rambly in my captions and fill them with personal anecdotes or something to spark discussion. I want people to see not only my costume, but also see a little bit about the person behind it and how I made it. To help you, here's a little bit of basic marketing jargon for you to know that can make your videos, posts, titles, and captions better and more strategic. Hook. Do you have something that will make people want to stay and watch within the first 3 seconds? Ask a question, say something shocking, tease them with the end result, or present them with something interesting enough that they want to see more. Hooks are also huge for titles for videos on things like YouTube and YouTube Shorts. Look at how other people write their titles on their successful videos and take inspiration from that without directly copying. Originality is key. You don't want to be making slop. Shareability and savability are making something someone would want to share with their friends and followers. Typically things that are relatable, funny, impressive, some sort of storytelling, so on and so forth. Or something savable that they'll want to look at later, which are things like tutorials, tips, works in progress, behind the scenes, etc. Call to action. What do you want your viewers to do when they see your post? Do you want them to save it, comment it, like it, follow you? Give them a reason to. At the end of my tutorial videos, I often like asking the viewer if they have any tips related to the video that they could share in the comments. Or if I know I'm presenting a lot of information, I'll say something like, make sure you save this video so you always have these tips on hand. Another way to make sure what you're posting on social media is valuable is to make it authentic. With the rise of AI and constant slop on the internet, people are once again falling in love with real voices and real faces. I find social media strategy is built on knowing your target audience and talking with them, not to or at. Authenticity is important, and people like personality. Let your personality shine. Don't be afraid to be yourself. Nobody else is exactly like you, and that is a good thing. Your uniqueness is to be celebrated, not put into a box of what social media thinks is good. For example, when I first started doing YouTube, I got a comment on one of my videos from somebody who said that often I look like I'm trying too hard because I'm very expressive when I talk, and I talk with my hands and my face a lot. That's just how I talk. That's just how I look. I'm not very good at masking my expressions. I'm not very good at a poker face. But at the same time, for the hate comment I got from somebody saying I'm too expressive, I've gotten comments from other people who say that they love how I talk and how I present information, and they love that I feel like I care about what I'm talking about. Which I do! Which I do! Why'd I say it like that? Which I do! Alright. Got the cameras. Winning the algorithm is possible, but it's also annoying as hell. Each platform performs differently, has different audiences and preferences, and what does well on one platform may do horribly on another. For example, this video did great on TikTok, but performed pretty poorly on YouTube compared to my usual stats. Don't be discouraged if something doesn't work out on every site. That is normal and natural. Another way to get a hang of the algorithm is to look at other creators, see what does well, and spin it into your own style. I tend to look at creators in my own niches or similar niches. So for me, that would be cosplay, but I also look at creators who make sewing, crochet, small business, anime, and comic content for inspiration too. I have a folder on Instagram for videos that I found compelling for one reason or another that I look to for information. Sometimes that's a good hook, sometimes that's a fun editing style, sometimes that's an audio. Sometimes the algorithm will fight against you. You'll have posts that flop, months where your growth slows down or fails, and so on and so forth. That doesn't mean what you're doing is necessarily bad. Oftentimes, social media platforms just prioritize very certain things at very certain times. The best thing you can do is stay true to you and what you love, and your audience will build from that. And finally, the best way to have what you create be good is to love what you do. I wholeheartedly love making cosplay patterns and sharing the joy of cosplay with folks of all ages. I love to make tutorials and tips, and I never believe in gatekeeping anything. So, with all that yapping, what did we learn? Social media doesn't matter, but it also kind of does. It's also fickle, and a post flopping doesn't mean you are a flop. The best content you can make is authentic, valuable, and something you enjoy creating. Your joy and excitement will shine through in your posts, and your audience will find you. This takes time. Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither is social media success. The people who say it does don't know anything about longevity. And for the love of God, please do not quit your job after one post goes viral. Please. It rarely ever works out the way you think it will. Thank you so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and also drop a comment to let me know what you thought and what you'd like to see in a future video from me. And last of all, happy making!